Hey, you ready to go, Dr. Bateman?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Sean McDonald. I'm on the Division for Learning Disabilities Professional Development Committee. Welcome to the Division for Learning Disabilities SIP and Study Series. Tonight, we're joined by Dr. Bateman, Dr. David Bateman. David is a principal researcher at the American Institutes for Research, and he'll be talking to us about Section 504 and students with learning disabilities. He'll be speaking for about half of our time together, and in the second part of our time, we'll have some time to answer your questions. Please submit questions through the Q&A feature in our Zoom session for today, in our Zoom features. And David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you all of you for being here today on this special day. So I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly. I want some notes, but I do want to get to some questions. And I think what we're going to do is if we don't get to all the questions, I think we're going to try to consolidate them and answer them and get them all back to you in a timely fashion because we want to make sure you get information about this. Ready, set, go. Ready? Captions are available for this presentation. Please just select the show captions icon on your screen to enable, and what the challenge is to see if they keep up with me. That's what we're going to strive for as a part of this, to make sure they understand where we're at this. So here it is. We're going to talk about the top 10 things I need to know about Section 504 for students with learning disabilities and just in general. There's my contact information. Please do not hesitate to use this. I am the Vice President of the Division for Learning Disabilities and proud to be part of this and proud to be part of what we're doing with this. So, all right, things like this. I'm going to talk about real things. I'm going to talk about two court cases really fast. Let me go back real fast. 10 things you need to know. 504 is important. It's incredibly important. You need to pay attention to this. And if you have not watched the movie Crip Camp, it is a movie that's on Netflix, but it's also free on YouTube. It talks about the history of Section 504 and how we almost did not get the regulations for this. It is well worth your time, and it starts at a camp where there's a lot of talk about sex and drugs, and so there's a hook there for you to get to be involved with this. But the star of the show is Judy Heumann, who just recently passed away. But it's a great resource for you as a part of this. Okay, here we go. I'm going to talk to you about some court cases out there. And this first one is the legal challenge to gender dysphoria protections under Section 504. So what I'm talking about this is almost exactly a year ago, the Biden administration added gender dysphoria as a category under Section 504. The state of Texas, in addition to some other states, have challenged this and challenged whether this is something that can be used for 504 protections. Up until a few weeks ago, we were very concerned about them just wanting to wipe out all of Section 504 protections. We have a web link here that is going to give you the latest update about what's going on. They're still focusing on the gender dysphoria part, but they've taken the rest of Section 504 off the table on this one. We were truly concerned about this. We were watching this because we did not think that the current administration in Washington was going to defend the lawsuit, and we were concerned that Section 504 was potentially going to go away. So it's something that we need to pay attention to and pay attention as we address this. Wait, there's more, okay? Here are the 17 plaintiff states. If you live in one of these plaintiff states, I do highly recommend that you contact your attorney general and talk to them and be very specific about the needs of individuals to have protections under Section 504. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but just make sure that you understand this and address this and pay very close attention to where we are with this, okay? Right, so yeah, that's the first lawsuit. Second lawsuit. The AJT versus Osseo area schools. It was the lawsuit. The Supreme Court heard this lawsuit just 6 days ago. And this has some implications for many of you across the nation about how 504 is going to be enforced and the implications for this. The bad facts make bad law, but just pay attention to this real fast, just so that you understand. Ava, student with has epilepsy that caused mostly her seizures in the morning. And when she was attending school in Kentucky, this Kentucky schools provided her accommodations so that she could not go to school in the morning because she couldn't be there. The parents moved to Minnesota. The Osseo Area School District refused the request. They filed a suit under Section 504 and ADA for disability discriminations. I don't want to get into the weeds too much on this one because there is a lawsuit that said that we have different standards for how 504 is enforced in the different states. This has serious implications about this, and I want to make sure that you are aware of this. So what we have for you is if the school district prevails, we have basically this. If you listen to the oral arguments, I'll tell you about that in a second. But if the school district prevails, we will have a two-tier justice system for students with disabilities. Well, K-12 students will face a higher standard for this. There will be weakened accountability. They're undermined the responsibilities and demands that we have relating to Section 504. Now, I'm not typically a betting person, but I would like to bet on this because I do participate in the Supreme Court Fantasy League. Some of you play different sports. I participate in the Fantasy League of the Supreme Court. They're not covering this case, and I'm kind of pissed. But if the parents prevail, what we would have is a uniform standard. And we have an alignment with what Congress originally intended under Section 504 and ADA as a part of this, and more consistent enforcement. If I'm going to bet on this one, I'm just going to bet that the parents prevail. Some of you watch Netflix. Some of you understand what's happening in the pit. I listened to the oral arguments the other day, and the attorney for the school district didn't really have a case, and basically got beat up by the justices there. It was really interesting about this. So if you are interested in following along and paying attention, you want greater detail in this. We have a link to this. There's a blog that I do with Mitch Yell. It's called Sped Law Blog, and we have a link directly to that we're going to be putting in the chat for you, directly to the AJT case that I wrote about a week and a half ago, that goes into greater detail and talks extensively about what we mean by deliberate indifference and what we need to pay attention to as a part of this. But these cases will change if the parents prevail, which I am seriously betting on. I'm truly betting on this one. Okay. And I'm willing to bet. If you want to take me up on this, let's go at it. All right, I'm there for you. But this is the case that will change how we enforce and how we need to pay attention to this. So if you're not, those of you who are in the Third Circuit, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, it's not going to change what you do because you already have the higher standard. Now, what you have to think about is the rest of you in every other state. Yeah, things are going to change. So keep this in mind as we talk about this one. All right. So as I speed up, don't worry, I can talk faster. All right. Hey, I'm going to talk about 10 things just to remind you that things about this that we need to pay attention to as a part of this. Okay. The first, and what you need to understand, I've got 10 things that you need to take back to your team to understand this. Okay. First, Section 504 is a civil rights law. It is not a special ed law. Some of these kids may be eligible for special education, but it doesn't mean they are going to be eligible for special education. And that's what we need to emphasize as a part of this, that these kids ensures access. It doesn't ensure special ed services. It is an anti-discrimination law. And that's what we need to pay attention to. It is anti-discrimination. It is not a service act. And that's what we need to emphasize as a part of this. Okay. Second thing, students with learning disabilities may qualify even if they're ineligible under IDEA. We have a two-part test for eligibility under IDEA where you have to have a disability and need the needs of specially designed instruction provided by typically someone certified as a part of this. So there are some learning disabilities like dyslexia can qualify for student for 504 service if it substantially limits a major life activity. Reading is considered a major life activity. And so we have to think about this. So there are some students out there who may receive services and accommodations, may receive services under IDEA, under special education, but may just get accommodations under 504. So if they don't need the services under special ed, they would still be considered as having a disability, and we would not be able and should not discriminate against them as a result of this. Okay. Third thing, 504 plans must be individualized and implemented with fidelity. Okay. Plans should include specific accommodations and be consistently implemented by general education staff. This is vital. These kids, the vast majority of kids eligible under Section 504 do not receive any special education services, and it's general education staff and teachers who are the ones responsible for ensuring that they're receiving their appropriate services and making sure that they're getting those as a part of this. We need to make sure it's individualized, specific to that disability. So as a link that we're going to provide to you, we have a link to a special education, a 504 accommodations guide. Okay. I wrote this a few years ago for the 30 school districts that I was working with that year. It was not meant to go online, but it was put online without my permission. And it's since gone widely viral. It's used in many states and multiple territories as a way to how to write a 504 accommodation plan. And so it's a guide that I want you to be able to get it out to whomever might benefit. Because I get emails from parents every single day now about this, about what's going on. And we need to share this as much as possible. Mitch Yell and I have a contract to turn this into a book when the 504 regs come out, and the 504 regs are coming out, we've heard, in August of 2023. So when they come out, we're ready. We're ready for it, but yeah, who knows when that's going to happen as a part of this. But this is going to help you as a part of this. It's not perfect, and it needs to be individualized, because the one main accommodation that you see for kids with ADHD is that they get extended time on tests. My question for you is, who is the kid who often finishes the test first? So we have to pay attention to understand what we're doing as a part of this, make sure it's accommodations for the kids based on their needs. This is a great guide for school counselors. It's a great guide for assistant principals, who are the ones who tend to be leading the 504 meetings. So please get this out to whomever might benefit, okay? Fourth comment, okay? Accommodations must not alter curriculum standards. Accommodations help students access grade level content without changing the learning expectations. We've got to emphasize this. We've got to emphasize what we're doing for these kids and helping them as a part of this. This is to help them make it through the day. Wait, there's more. 5, academic struggles are not a requirement for eligibility. Eligibility is about about access barriers, not just academic failure or grades. There are some kids in our schools who are getting good grades, but they are suffering because they have anxiety issues, they have depression issues, and we need to treat them and provide appropriate accommodations for them as a result of this. Too often I hear that because kids are doing well academically, that they don't need services. That is not necessarily the case. We need to make sure that we're providing this and helping them as a part of this. More. 6, there is no requirement for a medical diagnosis. Use teacher input, parent concerns, and functional data, but medical documentation helps, but isn't required. I'm working with a kid right now who is missing his left leg as a result of a car accident. We don't need a medical diagnosis to determine he's missing his left leg. I can see it. I'm that smart. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. More. 7, use the 3-question framework. I'll show you this in a minute. About does the student have an impairment? Does it substantially limit a major life activity? Are accommodations needed? It's vital that we address these things. Okay. More. General education staff are the ones for implementation. We do not do a good job of training general education staff. I'll be candid with you about this. I was a professor for many years. We did not do, my students got a good job, but we need to do a better job of this and ensuring that both general education staff, the teachers, and the building level administrators understand what their roles and responsibilities are about helping these kids make it through the day. 9, plans must be reviewed annually. Make sure that you review these annually, or if there's any changes. Parent brings you a notice about the child is seeing a different counselor or is having problems in school. When you're on notice about these things, you don't have to just wait annually. Whenever there's something going on, the kid is missing school or there's problems, just make sure you do check this annually, and at least at all natural transition points. 10, and failure to implement is a FAPE violation. We have an obligation to implement FAPE for these kids and help them as much as we can as a part of this. Okay, but wait, bonus. Okay, this is a bonus. Many of you are truly concerned about the budget in Washington. Many of you are concerned about the budget in your individual state. Providing appropriate services for students with disabilities and their families is not just a legal responsibility, it is also a moral responsibility. These kids are residents of our schools. These kids live in our neighborhoods. These kids attend our schools. We need to do what's right for them, to be there for them. They have disabilities at no fault of their own. They're just trying to make it through the day, and we need to do what we can to support them. Okay? So wait. So what I have 3 questions that every 504 needs to ask as a part of this, and I'll go through this fairly quickly because we want to get to questions as a part of this. Okay? But you need to ask these questions at a part of everything. So these 3 questions, in addition to the 504 guide that we're going to be showing, we're going to be providing for you, this will help your teams make it through 504s. And we're seeing a rise in the kids addressing the needs related to 504s. First, does a student have a physical or a mental impairment? Okay. We have examples of physical impairments here. What it means, substantially limits one or more of the major life activities. Here are some examples. Here are some more major life activities. Learning, reading, walking, concentrating, breathing, etc. There's major life activities as a part of this. Does the student have a physical or mental impairment? Okay. And here I'm saying student. I'm here to help you write 504 plans, but you have to remember 504 applies not just to the students, it also applies to the parents and it also applies to the staff. So we need to make sure we're providing appropriate accommodations for them. Okay. Understanding impairments does not need to be a severe or permanent impairment. Kids with temporary disabilities, kid breaks their arm, please provide accommodations for them. Kid breaks a leg, please provide accommodations for them. Things like this. But look at teacher input, medical records as a part of this. More, does the impairment substantially limit a major life activity? Right? Does not mean failing academically. Academic struggles, behavior challenges. Some of these kids are doing fine academically, but they don't talk to a single person when they are in school. They are lonely in schools. So we have to think about this. What are we addressing as part of this? Evaluating substantial limitation. Okay. Effectiveness based on prior interventions, look at past performance data, see what we're doing as a part of this and see what we can do to address these things, make sure we're actually addressing their needs and helping them as we are moving forward as a part of this. Okay, more. Does a student need accommodations to access their education? Okay, even with an impairment, accommodations may be necessary. So you may need to provide some accommodations. Seating closer to the bathroom, the regular trips to the bathroom, visits with a nurse if they have blood sugar issues, Tourette syndrome, accommodations related to that. There's a whole bunch of things that we need to think about this. Accommodations to remove barriers without altering the curriculum standards. Okay, extended time on test. Now there are some tests that are timed. I'll give you a different example. I want my firefighters to be able to carry loads up a ladder and down a ladder in a timely fashion. Okay, those are timed tests. But the vast majority of the things we do in school are not timed tests, and we need to think about this. Preferential seating doesn't mean it has to be seating next to a teacher, but seating so that they're more appropriate to the activities in which they're involved. But also then make sure they have access to their medication. Okay, so what we're seeing is kids with diabetes who need their blood glucose monitor, their blood sugar monitored by their cell phone. And many of you are doing state testing right now, and you can't have cell phones in the rooms. Here, quick tip. Okay, put their cell phone on mute. Put it in a brown paper bag, staple the brown paper bag so they can stay within Bluetooth range of their monitor and have it ping others if there's problems. They can't access the phone, but they can and make sure that the data is provided for them as a part of this. Keep that in mind. 4. So developing a 504 plan, use this guidelines in addition to the 504 plan, and you will get good information and you'll be able to understand what's going on. All right. But ask these 3 questions, develop a plan. Specific accommodations as part of this. Your district, or if you're in Virginia, your division will get no money for 504s. But you need to make sure that they're not being discriminated against based on this. Okay. Common pitfalls, assuming failing grades are necessary. Okay. Relying solely on medical diagnosis or providing accommodations that modify the curriculum. If a kid needs modifications to the curriculum, you need to strongly consider whether special education and related services are necessary for them under IDEA and not just Section 504. So you need to keep this in mind as we address this. Okay. The final, okay, 504 ensures equal access for students with disabilities. That's what we're paying attention to here. We're just giving them access. We're just trying to make sure that they can make it through the day. That is our goal about this one. Use the 3 questions to guide your eligibility decisions. Make sure you have that. But schools, you have an affirmative obligation to implement, monitor, and update the 504 plans annually. You absolutely do. This is something like this. 504 is in the news because of another lawsuit that I'm not talking about too much, but it's the lawsuit from the Supreme Court about 2 years ago, the Perez lawsuit, where increasingly parents are aware, and rightfully so, that if they sue under 504, they can get monetary damages. Monetary damages are not available under IDEA, but they're available under 504. And this is something that we need to pay attention to. So there has been a rise in 504 lawsuits, and there's a rise in attorneys representing parents in this to help them as a part of this. You need to make sure that you're implementing your 504 plans with fidelity and based on the student's needs, not based on your needs, based on the student needs, so that we're providing appropriate services for these kids. They're making progress, that we're not discriminating against them, and they're providing appropriate access as a part of where we're going. 504 is often thought about as this like IEP light. It's not. It is for kids who have disabilities, and we need to make sure that we're providing appropriate services for this. So, okay. So keep this in mind. Lots covered here real fast. But you can see, if you understand these top 10 tips with the information we provided, you're going to be golden tomorrow. You're going to be golden tomorrow. So what I want to make sure that you understand is we are, okay, with the Division for Learning Disabilities, I want you to stay connected with us. I want you to pay attention to what we're doing. I want you to understand where we are with this, and I want you to understand that we can provide appropriate services and information for you. We are regularly going to do updates on things that will provide assistance for you. We call these sip studies. I hope you were sipping something good. All right. I hope you were, I truly hope it is benefiting you as a part of this. But the Division for Learning Disabilities is the largest CEC division. They're just shy of 8,000 members. It's a very active division with a lot of resources that can be provided for you to provide additional assistance and guidance to help meet the needs of individuals with learning disabilities out there. Because LD is by far the biggest category in special education. It is by far. The others, they pale in comparison. They're striving, but they're not there yet. So keep this in mind as we address this. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to take some questions. If there are any questions that we can help you as address as part of this, and just to help you understand what we can do to provide appropriate services. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bateman. I'll go ahead and thank you folks for sending questions into the Q&A. I'm going to go ahead and read some of the questions that came up, and I'll make a note at the end on what we can do for unanswered questions as well. So first and foremost, we have Alvin Sanford. His question was, how will the elimination of the Department of Education and Trump policies impact Section 504 in your estimation?
I wish we didn't have to talk about this. Okay. The sad part is okay, two things. The elimination would profoundly affect Section 504. And I mean this literally. Okay. First, Section 504 is a civil rights law. The implementation of many of the lawsuits relate to 504 are through the Office of Civil Rights. The Office of Civil Rights is in the Department of Education, and for lack of better terms, it's been gutted. It's been decimated, things like this. So what we're going to see if we don't have it, if we eliminate the Department of Education, which takes congressional action, cannot be done through executive action. It will take congressional action on this one, things like this. But we potentially are going to see no more guidance, no more dear colleague letters or interpretive memos as a part of this. So that's why the Division for Learning Disabilities is actually going to try to step in. And I'm actually going to do some more work from some things on this fall to help as a part of this, because we're not going to get it as a part of this. We're going to have very different state level variations about this when things like this. I was a hearing officer for a long time in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania has codified 504 regs into its state law. So if we got rid of this, they still have the implication and the obligation to provide the services under Chapter 15 of the state code there. So keep this in mind, okay? But parents can still file state complaints, and there's been a rise in state complaints. What I'm expecting, okay, families, if there is no guidance or no federal monitoring mechanisms, I expect more lawsuits as a result of this, okay? I expect more about this because parents are increasingly are aware that they can get monetary damages for this. So if the Department of Education goes away, eliminate, Section 504 will still exist, but it'll be a law without a clear watchdog. Families would also lose accessible information about this enforcement, and schools could lose direction about this. For lack of a better term, equity would fracture across the states, and vulnerable children, who are the ones we work with, would actually bear the brunt of this. So it's not positive. We look at 504 as a part of this, but it's potentially going to cause some problems if it goes away. Okay. Let's take another question. Thank you. That's a great question. And I appreciate you grounding us and bringing us to that forefront and helping us address that one. All right. Let's get another one.
Sure. Can educational institutions outside the U.S. utilize the 504 plan?
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Education institutions. In fact, I did a presentation for a State Department school in West Africa, not like 2 months ago. And I was there, and yes, provided them guidance because the accommodations that we have listed in the 504 writing document that we provided for you, the accommodations work with all kids with disabilities, and they have to be specific to disabilities. The document that we're providing for you is good. It's very good. I applaud myself on that one, so I apologize. But it's a good document, but it's not perfect, and it has to be individualized to the child. But yes, the accommodations that we're going to be providing for you provide this. So Is there enforcement for 504 in other countries? No, there's enforcement for 504 in our territories. And I'd be remiss to not say half a day to my friends from Guam who and talk to them about this, because they are well aware of the responsibilities that they have in implementing this, and we need to ensure that they have the opportunity to receive information to provide guidance and assistance on this one. So yes, okay,
Wonderful. Maybe one more,
yeah, one
potentially,
more, yeah.
depending on how your response. But
I could be long-winded if necessary. So yeah.
so another attending had mentioned you said students with good grades can still need accommodations. Can you give examples of how to explain this to our district leaders? How do we make the
Well,
case in general in that regard?
this thing. Let's see. Okay, this talk about. They absolutely can have accommodations. Under Section 504, a student qualifies with either physical or mental impairment. Okay. Under IDEA, they need special ed. Okay. But just think about this one. Let me just give you some real world examples. That I like this question. A student with severe ADHD might hyperfocus and still pull off good grades, but struggle like with some executive functioning, some stress, or some emotional regulation issues. A different example, a student with type 1 diabetes might maintain A's but need medical accommodations to stay safe. A student with anxiety may perform well but need testing accommodations or a quiet space to prevent panic attacks. A student with dyslexia might read slowly and have to work twice as hard to keep up, even if they earn A's. Okay. The bottom line, I really want to emphasize this, and this is a really, really good question. I appreciate this. Okay. Don't confuse compensation with the absence of a disability. Don't equate success with a lack of need. Accommodations are about equity. They're not about advantage. A student shouldn't have to fail to qualify. All right, because many of these things, how we often compare. I'm honored. My dad is an educator, and he had this book on his shelf when I was growing up called "What'd You Get." It's the common thing that students ask when grades are passed out as a part of this. So we have to think about this as something that we can pay attention to as a part of this. Okay, but yes, these are the kind of things we need to think about. I think we can handle one more real fast. Okay.
Yes, yeah, this is a quicker question. And
Yeah.
again, we'll wrap it up in a second.
Yeah.
But so beyond these thoughts, are there any other resources to support people who are trying to navigate understanding the history, both present and future, of 504s?
Well, start with the history. Start with the Crip Camp video. Truly, it's about an hour and a half long. It's really good. Okay. Um, the it's basically about the sit-ins as a part of this. Pay attention to there's an organization called Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund. We sent you part of the URL for them for the Tennessee versus Kennedy case, but if you just go to it's dredf.org. Things it's a great thing. A great book out there that I loved when I read. It was a book called No Pity by Joe Shapiro. Wonderful things like this, but it's things like this. But I strongly want to emphasize that I think people should make sure that they still continue to be members of the Division for Learning Disabilities, the Council for Exceptional Children. This is our professional organization. We're just trying to help these kids make it through the day. We're trying to provide supports, we're trying to provide guidance, and talk about where we are with this one. And so we're trying to make sure that we are helping you so that you can help kids who have disabilities. Many of these kids have been historically excluded. Okay? Historically excluded from education. And we need to address this and pay attention to this, because the rights for special education didn't come till the 1970s. And so this, for some people, this is still within our lifetime. I'm a little older, but it's still within our lifetime, but it's something that we need to pay attention to. The rights are under attack. The wording that we have relating to individuals with disabilities having to carry their load, I can't tell you how many times I'm hearing that these individuals will never be taxpayers. So therefore, why should we ever spend money to provide supports for them? Okay. As I said before, I view this as a moral issue. I truly do. These kids, they don't want to have a disability. It's not like they sign up for this. It's not like they say, I'm going to have LD this week because it's easy to spell. No, they have disabilities and they want us to make it through the day. We need to provide appropriate supports. Okay. So this conclude here. Yeah, if I can conclude about the statements, but please stay a member of the Division for Learning Disabilities. We will keep you hyper current about what's going on. We'll keep you informed about what's going on, as will CEC. This is what the professional organization, because parents are now concerned about what's going on and they come to you to ask for guidance and supports. Principals are now concerned about this. They're going to come to you asking for guidance and supports. You need to be able to answer the questions and be able to give them guidance on this one. So use the links that we provided for you, stay in touch, and make sure you continue to sip whatever good beverage you have, because that's going to also help you get it through the day. So I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Absolutely. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for joining us for the Division for Learning Disabilities Sip and Study event. If we did not get to your questions, we have them. We'll relay them to David and set up a way for him to provide a follow-up message, or for us to follow up message through David's kind of insights. Also, slides and links can be sent in a follow-up email as well. So some of those were other questions there. So I'll make sure that that's taken care of. And our next event will be a doctoral student mentoring event. If you are a doctoral student or are interested in pursuing a doctoral degree, this would be a great opportunity for you to get one-on-one mentoring from experts in the field of learning disabilities, and we'll send an email for you to register for that mentoring event. Thank you so much, everyone.